a trailer for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1.
Yes. So the fact that they said part one kind of surprised me because I was like, oh, that's a little that's a little ambitious. Like I know Into the Spider-Verse was good.
Okay,
Okay.
I didn't want to dive into this yet
Oh,
because I have opinions on Sony and their handling of Spider-Man, and so I guess we're just going to dive right into
just
this.
do it. Just do it.
So, of course, with the Amazing Spider-Man, with the duology, got one and two. In two, they tried really hard to advertise that the next movies were going to be about the Sinister Six, and
They also just kept advertising just other Marvel properties in general.
like the movie wasn't a. I'll be fair. I barely remember the movie, so this is
Yeah.
mostly coming from what I remember, not from recent memory.
Yeah.
But they just the whole point of the movie wasn't the plot. It was an advertisement.
Yeah, because I remember during the time period when the movie came out, there were backroom talks about merging, about crossing over with the Fox first and potentially the MCU because this was right around the time where Disney didn't fully own Marvel Studios. Marvel Studios was still partnering with Paramount Pictures. And so I think they were thinking about making one giant conjoined cinematic universe
Yeah.
at the time. And so they were thinking, we'll just use Amazing Spider-Man 2 as a stepping stone to that project. But then Disney fully incorporated Marvel Studios, the X-Men and Fantastic Four movies started, dipping in quality, and Sony was like, well, our plans just went in the shitter.
Yeah. So the thought that they are already planning to um, have an entire series based from their second movie, I
Yeah.
am very worried. I am extremely worried. At the same time, I do acknowledge Into the Spider-Verse was by far one of the best things Sony ever did.
Yeah, it's in my opinion, it is probably the best Spider-Man film we've had.
Because up until before Spider-Verse came out, Sony Animation was was in the toilet as far as their reputation was concerned in the animation community.
Yeah.
Because I forget what released right before Spider-Verse, but they've had some garbage movies coming out from that studio.
Didn't they make Emoji Movie?
That was the one.
Yeah, they made
That was
Emoji
the
Movie.
one. That was the one that tanked their reputation, and then Spider-Verse brought them back up.
I'm gonna have a hot take. The Emoji Movie wasn't as bad as people say it is. There were far worse animated movies.
Yeah.
It's just, in my opinion, the Emoji Movie was just shallow. It wasn't bad. I think it was just shallow. But Spider-Verse is anything but shallow.
Yeah. I mean, the reason people hated it, like people hated it before it came out. The reason that it was so hated was
It's
because
because
it's clear what it was.
it's just oh my god, let's make emojis the new
Let, let, let,
minions
let's
for
let's
kids.
let's make Zoomers the movie.
Yeah, but Into the Spider-Verse was
But
a
that
great.
skyrocketed their reputation. That's why I'm a little less concerned for this when I talk about its relation to the Amazing Spider-Man 2, as far as how Sony approaches things. But then again, it is a completely separate studio, but it's still under the guise of Marvel.
So here's the thing that worries me that they're doing part one. I think they're trying to cross it over.
You think so?
I think we're gonna get not a full crossover, but references to other Spider-Men that have had movies.
I
I
well,
think
considering that we're getting, because so far the only Spider-Man we see in the movie in the trailer is Gwen, Miles, and Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2099.
his, his name starts with an H. Is it Hector?
It's a I know it's Hispanic,
It's a Hispanic name, yeah.
but yeah, we do get him because we did see him
At the end,
at the end of the first movie.
pointing meme. But yeah,
But look, so his inclusion makes sense, of course, because he was at the end of the first movie, and he's not really relevant to modern Marvel discussion. So
uh,
we don't really know much
he's
about him.
relevant for Spider-Verse
For the
connection.
Spider-Verse, sure.
For the Spider-Verse
But
aspect of Marvel Comics, I mean.
but for the broader, like,
Yeah, as a general Marvel fan, you don't really think about him.
yeah.
And so to follow up on what I mean when I say crossover. So at the end of No Way Home trailer, we're seeing that the multiverse is somehow cracking open in some way, and Doctor Strange can't contain it. And we also know, because Kevin Feige has confirmed this, Venom entered the MCU, and he's now there. I'm thinking Sony is really trying to do this. They want to do Spider-Verse, the storyline, but Miles is the main character. And it will have effects for, like, obviously any Miles-centric movies, but we will feel ripples of it in the MCU. And I think they are trying to do that.
You think so?
Yes, and I kind of don't want it to happen. But I see the writing because they've already teased too many aspects of the multiverse, and they've already started teasing aspects of the fact that Spider-Verse parts of the multiverse are going to be a thing.
Yeah.
Between the Ebony Blade, Gore the God Butcher, and the fact that between the Ebony Blade, Gore the God Butcher, and the Celestials, and now No Way Home being the first movie proper to deal with the multiverse, and coincidentally, Spider-Man happens to be the character that has a bunch of multiverse stories, so much so that this one is having 3 different Spider-Men, and now Sony's making another Spider-Man movie dealing with the multiverse, and their other live-action movie also is dealing with the multiverse, and it's using Spider-Man characters. I'm really thinking they're going to try and do something like that. The best example that I can use is that, so you know how there's X-Men 97?
Yeah.
So there are theories that X-Men 97 will cross over in the MCU via Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, via character cameos, and that it's not going to be a main thing, like the main part of X-Men 97 isn't trying to cross over with the MCU. That's not the main point of it, but the multiverse aspect of Marvel will affect that show. Like, there will be a ripple effect on the show. I think they're trying to do a similar thing with Into the Spider-Verse, and I think that's why they're doing part 1, because they want to leave it on a cliffhanger that they could cross over with the MCU in part 2.
Yeah. I'm
just knowing Sony and how they really want to embed themselves in Marvel, they want to, like, fully sink themselves into Marvel to the point where if Marvel tries to pull away, they risk destroying continuity.
Yeah, and especially because, like, Spider-Verse itself should be its own thing, because the creative teams that made Spider-Verse into an was it Academy Award winning? It won
nominated.
It won some award. I think it definitely won.
I think it had to be for, like, soundtrack.
No, it won Best Animated Picture.
Okay, 2018. Yeah, that was the best animated movie that came out.
You know, that movie won Best Animated Picture, a movie or a category that's exclusively won by Disney or Pixar most of the time.
Yeah,
but yeah, with the fact that they made such a, like, grounded or not grounded, but like a contained universe that was beloved by anyone who saw it.
Yeah.
The fact that it could cross over makes me very scared.
Yeah.
But I don't really think it's going to happen. I'm more concerned of what, like, Sony themselves, like pushing sequels before that it happens. Because I've seen it before with Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I guess the both of us are concerned for the movie, but for different reasons.
The reason why I feel that they are trying to push it into the MC, like, trying to get it to have some form of, like, MCU, like, connection, is because, here's the thing. When we first got Venom, the sequel hook was there, but it wasn't like, they didn't try to go too ham on all these big references to other aspects of Marvel.
Like, yeah, like the post-credit scene was pretty much the actor for was it
Woody,
Cassius?
Woody Harrelson.
Woody Harrelson, yeah.
He,
It was Woody Harrelson in a goofy wig,
yeah,
um,
playing Cletus.
playing or Cletus, that was his name.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was him in a goofy wig, and was like, oh, the next movie is going to be Carnage.
Yeah, which made sense.
Like that made sense. And then we jumped to Venom 2, where it's like, oh, okay, Venom is in the MCU now.
Yeah, and I just kind of felt that. So here's the thing. Just it's Avi Arad. That's his name. Avi Arad. I believe this man is just. You give this man an inch, he will take a fucking 5K. So he has kind of been the guy on Sony's end. He's like the Kevin Feige of Sony's end in the sense that he really wants to push connectivity. And that's why he sets up so many things. And I think after Venom happened and he saw some success, he was like, we can get Disney to do this with us. Which is why Morbius was so shameless in its opening trailer about making it ambiguous about whether it took place in the MCU or not. Because he smelled blood and he went for it. And then, with the leveraging of the Spider-Man contracts and the fact that Sony and Marvel came to an agreement to work closer together, it made it even stronger for him to potentially push things. Then Spider-Verse got independent success. And he was like, perfect. We have trusted, people have trusted us to do Spider-Man related content. And then the Multiverse saga started. And then they were like, what if we cross over Venom with the MCU? And then they did it, and fans have now lost their collective shit. And then the rumors have come out about Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire showing up in the MCU. And fans are losing their collective shit. I mean, remember back in WandaVision when we thought Evan Peters' Quicksilver had just crossed over? Everyone lost their minds.
And it ended up turning into a dick joke, pretty much.
Yes, but you have to. But remember the fan. Remember the fan just reaction.
Oh yeah, the fandom collapse that was from that one. Just that one episode ending was it almost broke the internet.
Yeah, it blew everyone's mind. I think he's chasing that. This sounds conspiracy theory level type of connection, but I think that's what they're going for because that's what's in everything Marvel related that has come out in like live action form has been connected. But now with What If opening the doors to animation and us getting Spider-Man freshman year, and with the fact that X-Men 97 is potentially going to connect over with the MCU, I think Sony is looking at the fact that they may be able to swing the success of their animated hit and swing it so that it can connect into the MCU so Sony's brand can grow bigger. So now they have to watch Sony movies that are Marvel related because if you miss it, you may miss a connection to the MCU.
Which I don't think it's going to happen, but I don't want it to happen.
I don't want it to happen with this movie.
Because here's what I expect from Spider-Verse. I expect it to be like hopping through different dimensions, exploring, but I'm really hoping it doesn't ripple into the MCU, or the MCU's effects don't ripple into this at all.
So here's what I think is going to happen. It's not going to be like the MCU is the main setting.
No, like events from that movie will like say there's more universe-breaking stuff other than what we see in Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, and in Loki.
And in Ant-Man Quantum.
Everything.
Yeah.
Say we get more multiverse-breaking stuff in those movies. I don't want those to affect this at all, and I think that's what you're kind of leaning against.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want that to happen with Spider-Verse. Like, I'm fine with them connecting previous live-action movies. Like, for all I care, connect the Ang Lee Hulk, the 60s Captain America, and the shitty Howard the Duck. For all I care, connect all those to the MCU. I'm fine.
Because
But the animated thing is where I'm really drawing the line. I'm already hesitant about X-Men 97 inevitably crossing over. Because if the leaks are true, I'm going to say fans of X-Men 97 are not going to be particularly happy with how this crossover ends up in Multiverse of Madness. And if that's the direction they want to go with their animated series, I'm afraid of what that would mean for Spider-Verse.
yeah,
Like, I'm afraid that, like, Spider-Verse is going to have connections to the MCU, and thus it could tease things that, like, say, like, Penny Parker now shows up in the MCU through multiverse shenanigans for, like, an adventure. Where we're losing aspects of what could be fun, creative, individual stories being now just wrapped into the MCU.
yeah,
That's what I'm afraid of. And when I saw part 1, I was like, oh fuck, they're making part 2 part of the MCU.
yeah.
Because I can already see it. I can already see how they want to hook you. Like, they're like, the multiverses, like, crossed over, and you caused all this different damage with all those different Spider-Men crossing over. And Miles is like, but it wasn't Gwen's fault. It was Kingpin's fault that all this happened, and blah, blah, blah. And the Spider-Man 2099 is like, but you still meddled, and now you're meddling again. And then the multiverse is cracking apart. And at the end of part 1, it's going to be like, oh my god, what have we done? And then it's supposed to tie in to how the multiverse is cracked and all the other Marvel properties that are happening at the same time.
Because with the first Into the Spider-Verse, the only connection we got to any other movie was the main Spider-Man doing the goofy dance from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
That's all we got, and it wasn't even a direct reference because
Yeah.
in the in Into the Spider-Verse he was dressed in the Spider-Man outfit, whereas in the Tobey Maguire movie it was just
Bully.
It was Bully Maguire, yes.
Yeah. So
So with that, like, it wasn't connected at all aside from that little Easter egg.
Yeah.
Aside from that, if we get connections to the MCU, I'm very worried, but I'm more worried for my thing because I feel like the fact that they're going to be so sequel oriented is going to tarnish the quality of the
movie. Yeah. That's also why I'm afraid about the connection to the MCU, because I feel they want to hyper fixate on that aspect, and it's going to be at the detriment to everything else about the movie.
Yeah, I'm definitely more concerned about the sequelitis because I know how Sony has handled this in the past, and that worries me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I kind of didn't want a sequel to Into the Spider-Verse.
I didn't either.
I didn't really want
the story doesn't warrant a sequel.
Yeah, I mean
we're hyped that we're getting it, but at what cost?
Yeah, like, I was fine with the ending. It was like, it's like, Miles, he's now accepted as Spider-Man, and he has friends with his roommate, which is definitely Genki, and he's not gone from, like, him and Gwen are not separated forever. Like, they can see each other. And I was like, that's perfect. That didn't need to be a sequel hook.
Like, what was I about to say? Like, it's like asking for a sequel to Joker. It could be cool, but the story that was told doesn't warrant a sequel.
Yeah, it's like, it could be cool seeing what a Batman looks like that was growing up in that, but we
really don't need it because it's like more of comics relevant. It's like asking for a comic sequel to The Dark Knight or Returns. The Dark Knight Returns. They did.
It's comic books. There's always a sequel.
God damn.
They made a sequel to Watchmen. 2 sequels to Watchmen.
Oh my god. I'm guessing. Or how about this? And I'm just going to say this is a joke because I know there is a sequel to this. It's like asking for a sequel to Civil War.
Yeah.
Because we know what happens in the sequel to Civil War.
Yeah.
That was a train wreck in and of itself.
Oh, it was so bad. Like, I definitely didn't want the sequel. I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm going to be cautiously optimistic about its potential, but I right now only see moneybags in Sony's eyes, and I don't like that.
Yeah, yeah. Both of our problems had the same motivation, and
Yeah,
it's we'll stay excited, but we're a little on the edge on this one.
yeah. Like it's definitely become something that I've been a little bit weary of the fact that because I think in this way, I feel like I'm really weary of Disney trying to absorb like every aspect of Spider-Man again, but this time through just like connecting everything via multiverse because I just it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah. But just to round up all of our opinions, yes, we're excited. Of course we are, but we have reasons to be worried because of Sony.
Yeah. And Disney for that matter, if it is supposed to cross over.
Yeah.
Because while I believe the creators of this love this, and I believe if there was a crossover with the MCU, it's probably going to be like an enormous love letter to the comics. I just don't like what it could represent.
Yeah.
Yeah, even if the content itself is good.
Because in the trailer, like, it looks still just as stylized if it did before, if not more.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, it's going to take place in a different dimension because, of course, the stylization is completely different to what we saw in the first movie.
Yeah.
But with that, I'm optimistic too, but just the motivations have me very worried.
Yeah. And that's definitely what I'm thinking. And yeah, I was also just seeing so many different clues to how they could do a Spider Verse between the Celestials now being a thing, and Nowhere being a former Celestial whose head was cut off by No, which was using All Black the Necro Sword, which is the sword that Gore ends up using, which is showing up in Thor Love and Thunder, and the Ebony Blade is a type of sword that is like the Necro Sword, and we saw that in the Eternals, and I'm just like, oh no, they really are trying to do this, and if Spider-Verse is getting a sequel, then they're definitely gonna do Madam Web, and yeah.
Yeah. Now, yeah, let's definitely move on because we've had enough negative opinions about Marvel for one episode.
Yeah. I mean, the next news that comes